A very good morning to you and a warm welcome back to the OR Tambo International Airport in Ekurhuleni, which will be the venue for this year's celebration of the World Wildlife Day. Now, the focus of this year's celebration is the big cats, the big wildlife cats. We have the big five in South Africa, and earlier on we chatted to the Chief Director of Environmental Affairs from the Department of Environment, and she highlighted all the endangered species that will be extinct any minute from now. Now, the organized crime syndicates have been quite a thorn in the flesh for particularly organizations like the South African Revenue Services, and I'm joined by the Chief Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services, Moyane, who will be telling us more about the role that the Customs and Excise Department of SARS plays in dealing with organized crime. A very good morning to you, Mr. Moyane, and thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much for inviting us and being part of this important worldwide life exhibition this morning in our country, and we are grateful to be part of this important occasion.
First of all, crime syndicates have always been on the increase. So what's the role of the Customs and Excise Department of the SARS?
Customs is the front line of defense in this country against any illicit trade, be it in terms of clothing, wildlife, or any other activity, and therefore we form part of that collaborative approach against within the interagency relationship that we have. And therefore it is important that we play a role, because ours is to collect as much revenue as possible, so that when customers, when traders, when visitors come to our country, they must know that they must abide by the laws. So we want to indicate to the syndicates that there is no space to hide, there's no things that are going to be brought into this country that will go undetected.
Have the systems been strengthened, particularly at the Customs and Excise Department, in ensuring that the crime syndicates do not easily permeate the industry?
Every day that goes by, syndicates also want to be a step ahead of us. So we need also to be ahead of the game. We are strengthening our systems, we are strengthening our technology, and of course training our people appropriately. And therefore we need to invest in the modernization of customs to be able to be on par with our peers internationally in order to deter and also snuff out any other illegal activity taking place in our country, because it defeats and denies us the revenue that we demand.
Are we winning this battle though?
Of course we are. I think 2 weeks ago we caught syndicates with about 270 kilos of illegal items. Crystal meth, rhino horn, pangolin, abalone. In fact, abalone was about 250 kilos. So we need to be on top, because with this collaborative approach with the Department of Environmental Affairs, we're able to help the country to be on par with other countries to stop these things happening in our country. But yes, every time we need to invest. Investment must bring a return on what we do.
Mr. Moyane, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for chatting to us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
That is SARS Commissioner Moyane just talking to us, just giving us an overview of what the role of Customs and Excise is in terms of dealing with organized crime syndicates. And now I'm joined by the Chief Officer of the Customs and Excise Department at the South African Revenue Services, Mr. Moyane. A very good morning to you, Mr. Moyane, and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, take us through what would the banning of wildlife hunting mean for conservation in the country?
Well, it forms part of the overall intergovernmental strategy, the integrated strategy on combating of wildlife, illicit wildlife trade. And so what it says for us as the Customs and Excise unit, specifically the detector dog unit, is that we need to heighten our efforts, we need to sharpen our efforts to ensure that we contribute as part of the overall intergovernmental strategy in ensuring that we protect our border posts, we facilitate legitimate trade. And so it forms part of our ongoing mandate to ensure that we execute the overall SARS strategic mandate, which, as I said, is about ensuring that we facilitate legitimate trade and protect the society from harmful trade that's taking place. Yes.
Mr. Moyane, the Commissioner of SARS just said a short while ago that the systems have been strengthened at the Customs and Excise Department in ensuring that criminals or environmental criminals do not permeate the country and in dealing with the crime syndicates. So, and I guess that a part of that will be to strengthening the trade policy, the international trade policy, or rather the wildlife trade policy. What are the main elements of the policy and the contents thereof? Can you just get us the bolts and the nuts of this?
Well, let me focus specifically on what we do as part of obviously the critical element of the policy is about strengthening the intergovernmental agency cooperation, amongst others, to ensure that we do, actively combat this illicit trade. And with specific reference to SARS, we have heightened our efforts in ensuring that we bolster the capacity within and capability within our detector dog unit. And I can share with you some of the highlights that we have registered recently. I mean, in the past, in the current financial year, we have detected about 509 exotic birds through the efforts of the men and women in grey, if I may refer to them as that. In the current year, 13 rhino horns were picked up, just over to the tune of 29 million. So for us, what the strategy simply says is that we need to heighten our efforts, we need to strengthen our capacity and capability to ensure that we play an active role in ensuring that we protect our ports of entry, we facilitate legitimate trade, and ultimately we contribute to the overall societal protection.
Surely this has to be a team effort. It has to be a collaborative effort between all sectors of society. I'm talking about the Hawks, I'm talking about the SAPS. What's the extent or the level of collaboration that exists between these organizations, particularly the security forces?
Well, I think what underpins the whole collaboration is obviously the framework that's in place, which essentially, creates a parameter for all of us to say, where do we come in as respective role players, in the whole value chain. So for us, our mandate essentially, is drawn primarily from this, the framework that's in place. And as I said, we can only grow from strength to strength in ensuring that we realize the objectives of that framework.
So what are some of the challenges that have been met by the Customs and Excise Department? Because Mr. Moyane did say that you are really fighting, winning the battle against crime syndicates.
Yeah. Look, the remaining challenge and the ongoing challenge that we are facing is obviously to strengthen our capacity and capability in ensuring that we are living in a dynamic world. We always have to sharpen our analysis in terms of ensuring that we are on top of the game in ensuring that we monitor the trade and the transference of goods and people that come through our ports of entry. So it remains an ongoing challenge to ensure that we are on top of the game in ensuring that our capacity and capability, both in terms of systems, people and processes, are sharpened and heightened. So that's part of the challenge, but the challenge that I must say that we are on top of, and we remain alive to that particular challenge.
So since the Customs and Excise Department is still in the process of building capacity and strengthening the systems to prevent crime syndicates or organized crime, then it opens the gap for crime syndicates, for organized criminals to continue with their illegal trade. How can you confidently say then that you are fighting the battle against this?
Look, I can say that we're winning the battle. One is to specifically clarify that when we say that we remain alive to ensuring that we meet the challenge of strengthening our capacity and capability, what it means is that we are not starting from ground zero. So we have capacity. But what it essentially means is that we need to continue to strengthen our capacity and capability. We need to ensure that our systems are in place. We need to ensure that we analyze the data that comes through to ensure that we are on top of our game. So I need to give assurance to South Africans out there that there are men and women in grey that have accepted the challenge to ensure that they protect our ports of entry, they facilitate the legitimate trade. But at the same time, we can't rest on our laurels. We always have to accept that it's an ongoing challenge. The syndicates are at all times looking at different methods, exploring different ways of how to circumvent the system. And so we then have to ensure that we remain on top of our game and we are constantly improving our processes and procedures. We are hiring the best people to deliver on our mandate. And as I said, the stats are there, and they clearly demonstrate that we are on top of the game.
Okay, just briefly, we haven't got much time, in 10 seconds. Just share with us the stats. Have there any arrests been made, and what's the level of arrests that have been made compared to the other years?
Look, the issues in terms of the arrest, I will leave that to the SABC to talk to the arrest. But specifically, as I said earlier on, just in terms of the combating of illicit trade, in the past year alone, we netted just over 29 million in terms of the rhino horns that were picked up here, 509 exotic birds that were picked up, and the stats are there, and they demonstrate clearly that we remain vigilant and we remain on top of our game in ensuring that we facilitate legitimate trade and we protect the society from harm.
Mr. Moyane, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
The Chief Officer of the Customs and Excise at the South African Revenue Services, Mr. Moyane, talking to us through what the role of the Customs and Excise Department is in dealing and fighting organized crime syndicates, particularly wildlife crime syndicates. Now, they are stationed here at the OR Tambo International Airport because this has been the entry and the exit points for organized crime syndicates. For now, it's back to you in studio.